Hey everybody. So, we've learnt about the differences between atoms and molecules and elements and compounds, but obviously the focus for this topic is all about chemical reactions. So, how do those chemicals change and interact with each other to make different chemicals? So, the first thing we need to look at are physical changes. So, this is the opposite of a chemical change or a chemical reaction. So in physical changes, chemicals don't actually change what they are. So materials stay in the same form. So chemicals means the same thing as materials. You can use them interchangeably. So that's the first point. So here's a whole lot of physical changes that we can do. So you can take some ice and you can melt it. That ice is still made of water when it's ice and when it's melted into liquid water. So the material stayed the same, it's just physically changed. If you chop up a piece of wood, that wood's still made of wood molecules. We're just changing the shape of them and changing how they're connected. The same with shredding paper. It's still paper once it's shredded, so those molecules haven't changed. And if you mix together different coloured marbles, they're still made of the same material too. Okay, well the other thing with physical changes is that they can usually be easily reversed just by doing a physical process. So they can be reversed physically. So if you have your liquid water, if you put it back in an ice cube container, put it back in the freezer, we can make our ice again. So we can reverse it. And with this chopped up piece of wood, we can push together the two halves again, and that piece of wood is one piece. And again, with shredding paper, it would take ages, but you could get each piece of paper and put them back together again to get our original piece, so that we're reversing the process. Alright, and then the final point there is that the molecules and the chemicals don't change. So always be aware, some processes are physical and they're not a chemical reaction. So you need to know those first. Okay, well then what are chemical changes and chemical reactions? So firstly, a chemical reaction is the same thing as a chemical change. So you can use either one. So with a chemical change, this is where the materials do change into a different form. So the materials, or the starting materials, change into different materials. Into different materials. So there's a whole lot of examples here of some chemical reactions. We've got burning wood. So if you start with pieces of wood, once you've finished burning them in your bonfire here, you're only left with charcoal and carbon dioxide that's gone off into the atmosphere, and water as well. So definitely the molecules have changed and they're no longer the molecules found in the wood. Rotting food, like this banana here, rotting, all those molecules are changing and that banana's breaking down into other things, turning into a different material. Vinegar and baking soda, that's the common one we can do, common reaction we can do that makes lots of bubbles and fizz. So the vinegar and the baking soda materials change into different materials. Vinegar and baking soda So that one actually changes into a salt, not table salt. And what else does it make? Carbon dioxide, CO2, and I think it makes water as well. Okay, so in chemical changes, the materials do change into different forms. And that means if we look down at the molecules are breaking apart and combining to make new molecules. Oh, the dog next door is not happy. Alright. So unlike physical changes, which can be easily reversed physically, you can't reverse a chemical reaction just by changing it physically. You have to do another chemical reaction to be able to reverse it, and then even then it's not always easy to do. Alright, so that's the difference between chemical reactions, chemical change, and physical changes.